2.
Meet Dave of Delusions of Grandeur, actor, producer, and director of films like Tales of the Forgotten. He has come to assemble a team of freaks, geeks, and even worse, film nerds, to discuss films ranging from mainstream to downright crazy. There is Tammy car enthusiast and Dave's fiance, Dustin reptile expert and overall horror collector, Jake environmentalist and fine art film critic, and finally Brandon, a therapist with a love of film that can only be seen as insanity. Together under Dave's leadership, they are inside movies galore. Enjoy the show. Enjoy the show.
To heal.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another exciting film journey here on Delusions of Grandeur. I am one of your hosts, but today we are back to discuss a film that I have put forward, and it covers a trial, and it's based on a book. It's based on a book by Harper Lee that was written in 1960, and it's kind of an autobiographical novel by the author, but it was placed into to a film from the play, and directed by Robert Mulligan in 1962, and stars quite a few people, some in their very first role that they've ever done, and let's see. The writers are of the screenplay for the movie are Harper Lee and Horton Foote. The stars are Gregory Peck, John Magna, Frank Overton, Rosemary Murphy, Ruth White, Brock Peters, Estelle Evans, Paul Fix, Colin Wilcox Paxton, James Anderson, Alice Ghostly, Robert Duvall, who played Boo Radley, and I believe that was his first performance ever. William Wyndham, Crayon Denton, and Richard Hale, Mary Badham, who played Scout, which my parents actually met.
Who?
Yeah, my parents actually met Mary Badham because she was attending the rewritten play of To Kill a Mockingbird by someone related to us. I forget exactly his name, but I know that he was related to us, and I was able to get a signature from Mary Badham on a.
Wouldn't that be maybe Aaron Sorkin?
Aaron who?
I found a page on Wikipedia about 2018 play To Kill a Mockingbird written by Aaron Sorkin. So I thought maybe that was the person you were talking about.
It might have been. I know it was a little bit ago that my parents had actually gone to a play adaptation of it. And the thing about this particular film is that it was very controversial due to the racial aspect of what was going on in the movie as well as the film. But at the time in 1962, this had won 3 Oscars. It had 16 nominations, and let's see. Let me go back backwards a moment. Let's see, because it had 14 wins and 16 nominations in total, but won 3 Oscars overall. So it was very popular at the time.
Mhm.
But let's see what IMDb says about the film, and then we'll go into first impressions. So let's see. So, a widowed lawyer in Depression era Alabama defends a black man against a false rape charge while teaching his young children about the sad reality of prejudice. So, going around the room, I'll start with you, Boris. What was this a first time watch, and what were your first impressions of this film?
Yes, this was the first time I watched this movie, and I have to say it was really quite thrilling and suspenseful. I must admit, much more than I expected, since I myself rarely go for movies as old as this one. Okay, sometimes I do, but not very often. So yeah, this was. I did hear of this movie and the novel before, but I never watched it before. And I thought it was really good. The way they. At one point in the movie, they kind of jump from one subplot into another, like from this whole mystery of Boo Radley into the topic of the black man falsely accused of rape. And what I really found interesting about this movie is how well they pulled it off to how uh, to make you stop thinking about the previous mystery and get fully focused on the trial subplot. That was really well done, and it was really keeping me on edge and wondering how it was going to play out, while in the back of my mind I was wondering how one subplot was going to be connected to the other, if there was going to be a connection in the first place. But in the end, they tied it all together very well, although the way the trial ended was kind of disappointing, but at the same time, it was quite necessary for the plot, for things to play out eventually the way they did, and for justice to be served at least in some way. In the end, yeah, I think the movie was very good, and I'm glad I saw it.
Okay. And heading over to you, Tammy. Was this a first time watch for you?
I think I've seen it before, but it's been a long time.
Okay.
But I think I did. I think I read the book back in high school, actually,
Okay.
but that's been a long time ago, too.
Understandable. So, having had a previous
It
viewing of it,
reminded
and now,
it reminded me of another movie which I told you about called A Time to Kill.
okay.
So that one's a little bit more fresher in my mind because I know I watched it actually not that long ago, that one. But it reminded me of that one because of the subject matter.
Okay.
So it was actually just a little bit opposite, though. It was actually white men that were on. It was a black man that was on trial, but it was because a white man had um, raped his daughter, and so he went to go get justice of his own in the time to kill. But so it was still a black man that was being, um, that needed a lawyer.
Yeah.
So in like the same time setting, the same, basically, um,
Depression
people,
era.
yeah, people were still thinking the same way and still acting the same way that they did in this one. Um, I don't know if it was during that depression, but since it was down south, you know, people still had these different ideas and thoughts and, you know, prejudice, prejudices, you know, as they do in this movie, which is really a shame, because the lawyer in this movie, he has a black woman helping with his household, and that's all fine and all accepted and everything in this movie. But yet, for him to defend a black man, to defend a black man is wrong. So,
Wrong because no one of color should have the rights or the same rights as white people, basically. What it comes down to it.
I understand that, but it's how is everybody so accepting of his, um, I don't know if you want to call her a nanny or housekeeper or what. How come it's totally acceptable? She's totally acceptable. But for him to defend a man of color is not. You know what I mean?
I
It's like
I don't
it.
even think that him having a black woman to help him at this point in time in that area is entirely acceptable either. It's just
But
the way it
nobody,
is.
but nobody treated her wrongly,
No,
and nobody
Oh,
seemed to
not in the
treat him
film.
wrong, and nobody seemed to treat him wrongly for her being there. And I guess that's one thing that I always felt kind of like, you know, if you're gonna be prejudiced like they are in this,
You better be prejudiced all the way, or not at
right?
all.
Why are some things acceptable for people of color and some things aren't? It's just. But
Well,
it was a very
unfortunately,
it was a very good movie, and you got to see how things were at that time because you knew about you saw what the jury was. Now there weren't any women on that jury either
nope.
because it was at that time, that was not a woman's place to do that. So you're in this movie is dealing with more than one type of a prejudice,
Well, yeah.
because they're prejudiced against people of color, but yet in a way they're prejudiced against their own color because they're not letting women do things. So they're prejudiced against the women also.
Yep.
hmm.
But
And
but I did think it was a very good movie, and um, I do have a little bit of a law background because I have, you know, the paralegal certificate,
Yeah.
So I understand what the lawyer went through and everything to prepare for this and all that, and I understand the differences in the laws and stuff. So it's just it's a shame that this was going on, and from what I understand, there are certain parts down south that it still goes on.
Well, yeah, there is. Um, and that's what I kind of wanted to bring to the table. I know we're like three white people who are uh, discussing this film at this moment. I wish we could have had KJ on for this one. Um, but I didn't think about it in time. But in any case, I'm not sure exactly when I actually fully watched this, but I've had this film in my collection for many years. Um, my parents, because of our connection, were able to be uh, in the vicinity of Mary Badham attending the production that they saw, and they were able to get a signature on a photograph of Scout and Atticus Finch sitting together. And Mary Badham's signature is on it for me, and I have it in a photograph, which I'll probably show a picture of shortly, but um, just to show ladies and gentlemen that but um I like this one because Gregory Peck is a phenomenal actor. I mean, I remember him playing Captain Ahab in Moby Dick, and him playing this lawyer, and he's got this deep voice. And I know I've seen him in some westerns too. It's just and I know I remember him being in a couple of war ones too. I think 12 O'Clock High being one of them. Um, and so on and so forth. So having seen Gregory Peck before as an actor, uh, and he's having to be this like single father and having to deal with some of these situations and having to explain them to his young children while they're growing up, and you know it's you get to see a little bit of a small town life, and what happens from and you really get to see it from the eye of Scout because she's narrating it, you know so
Yes.
I'm pretty certain that Mary Badham is the voice that you actually hear of her when she's actually um speaking as if she's like a grown woman as the story progresses. So, oh no, not Mary Badham, no, because Mary Badham is the actress who played Scout. I believe it's Harper Lee that you actually get to hear the voice of. Sorry, my bad, because Mary Badham was the child. But I, it's hard to say. I'm entertained by the movie. It's a very good movie, very well acted, and you get to know a little bit of the town's of folk from afar. And you see a few of the people that live nearby, but you really get the sense of what it's like to be a kid in that town because these kids and neighborhood kids are bored with each other. So when they come across some of the situations, like the fact that there's a story going on about Boo Radley and how he went away and is now back, in the very beginning of the movie. Um, and the sense of camaraderie between the kids, even though it seems like their neighborhood friend, uh, Dan, I think his name is, or Dale. I think his name is Dale. Um, he instigates situations with them, the brother and sister. Now it seems like Jem is the name of the brother, or Jim. Although
Jem, yeah.
Scout calls her brother Jem, and Scout's called Scout, and well, let's get into the plot line. So we do see that the kids, Scout and Jem, are playing with one another, and this is even um, before Scout starts school for the first time, and I believe that there is a moment where Jem and Scout are attempting to go to sleep. Um, and she asks him about Jem, about their mother, and whether he was what age he was when she died, and whether she was pretty or not, or things of that nature. And you see Atticus Finch sitting out on the porch, um, basically listening in on their conversation. You can tell that he's keeping an ever watchful eye on them and what they're saying to each other. And I feel like Atticus Finch is a very quiet man, even though he is very able to explain certain things to his kids when it comes down to it. Um, but I do believe in the very beginning of the film we get them talking about Boo Radley and the situation about him being away and being back, and about their neighbor, and I guess their friend Dale convinces them both to somehow run up and touch the house somehow, or whatnot. But in order to do so, one of them has to go in this tire all the way to it, run up, knock on the door, like kind of like ding dong ditch, and come back from it unscathed or whatnot. Because apparently these kids apparently think that they're trying to make Boo Radley come out. To Because he's kind of a mystery to them. He's the talk of the town at a moment because of his situation, and I'm not sure whether they realize what kind of mentality this man has, but they do realize that the man that lives there with Boo Radley is kind of a mean guy as well, from what they're saying. Correct, Tammy? If I remember correctly, that old man who seems to, especially when you see Jem collecting things from that knobby hole in the tree,
Well, the old guy is definitely scary. And yes, there were all kinds of rumors spread about, I believe his name is Boo?
Yeah.
They call him Boo, but apparently his
Boo.
real name is Arthur.
Yep.
But yes, there was lots of rumors spread around him, um, and I think the rumors are basically because he is different and he's been secluded by his father, you know, so people don't have anything better to do than to come up with all these different stories, you know. Nobody's actually seen him do any of these things that they have been saying, you know.
So the
The only
neighborhood kids seem to think that in order to that he's easy to play jokes on. You know, it's something that the kids just decide to do, um, just to see if they can kick the hornet's nest. If you get my drift. um, Well, they want to see what he looks like. They've heard all kinds of things about him, and children have curious minds, especially when they haven't entirely grown the brain matter that they have into the adults that they should be.
But yes, children are curious, so they're gonna keep trying to get a glimpse of him or whatever. So
And I don't think they do or right away, because
Um,
um, it's shortly after they attempt to is when Atticus Finch is approached by, I believe it's either the sheriff or I believe it's the sheriff to defend the the color man of color on trial by the name of Tom Cullens,
Robinson.
Tom Robinson. Um, and after sitting there for a moment, he and the sheriff or whoever mayor says, "I know you're busy and all that that," and he agrees to being the defense counsel for Mr. Robinson, and because he does that, the father of the girl that cried rape starts acting all kinds of creepoid towards the family and towards him, and calls him a N lover. The
Yes.
way he comes up on the kid and creepily looks into the window and whatnot, he just looks all kinds of creepy. To,
Definitely.
but he comes by there just to spit on him and call because he's defending Tom. He calls him, you know, the N word, and calls him a lover of them. So, which apparently is at this point in time a a point of insult, uh, a prejudiced insult, which to some people, to certain extremes, could bring people to anger. But I know, but as we see, um, Atticus takes it in stride and tries to treat the entire situation with calmness. And I don't think this is this is not the only time that this guy comes off as creepy to them. I think there's a second time he comes around too. He just tries to play this menacing character. Um, even before the trial happens. And the trial doesn't happen until a year down the road. So the thing is, trials take time, even back then. And probably even more so back then because, you know, bureaucrats and their bullshit, they tend to drag their butts until it's time to dilly out some justice. Um, but as we know, um, I do believe that this wasn't an entirely fair trial.
You don't say.
Um, but we'll get to that momentarily. What do you what do either of you think about Scout as a character?
Well, for the most part, I thought she was decent. I actually liked how she, as a girl in that time period, like both in that time period and being a girl, which automatically makes her, or at least makes us expect her to be physically weaker than an average boy. She still has the courage to fight physically when she feels she has to, either to defend herself or someone else who injustice is being done to. That was something I found really cool about her, and I kind of didn't think it was right to for her father to attack her for okay, no, maybe attack is a too strong word, but to reprimand her for fighting in situations when something really did need to be done, and there was no one really to do it. No one else was obviously doing it, so she went and did it. There was only this one part that I didn't fully understand that had to do with this boy Walter, where I didn't fully understand what kind of conflict she had with him, but I think she was. I got the impression that she was being unfair towards him, but like I said, I didn't quite pick up what that part of the story was all about.
Oh, and the kid Walter.
Yes.
I believe that was something to the effect that he took something of hers that was part of her lunch, and that's why Jem made her apologize afterwards, because I don't think the kid's father really fed him all too much, which is why he invited him home. What do you think, Tammy, about that little kid?
I thought Scott was neat. I mean, she definitely a little firecracker, that's for sure.
What did you think about Walter in that situation with Scout?
um, well,
Ooh.
she wasn't used to school, and she wasn't used to all the things that go along with school. That kids can be very mean, and kids can say things, and they pick up on things, and um, that's part of it. And
Okay, so Walter
not.
actually said something about Atticus, right?
I think the first time they got into it, he did, because didn't they get into it twice?
I thought it was only the once, but
She
then she
got in a
got,
fight with somebody the first day,
yeah, and that was that
and
Walter kid.
And then she
blonde
got in
hair.
another. Then she got in a fight another time, and I thought it was the same kid, and that's when they invited him to dinner. The second
I,
after the
I thought it
second
was the
fight,
first time that they invited him to dinner.
she was in two fights, and I thought it was with the same kid.
Mm. Oh, I thought it was with two different kids. The first time, the brother made her bring the dude home, and they and Jem salvaged it by having the kid over, and that's when he poured too much syrup on the pancakes, and she started to say something, but then she was uh, uh brought she was told to go away from the table. And the black woman actually told her that then fine, you don't have to eat. Um, if you're gonna be treating that kid that way, you know. Um, she basically reprimanded her, and so did Atticus at the time. And then, but he also had another talk with her about a different fight on a different day with a different kid.
And that
Um,
one was
Yes.
because they, the kids had been listening to the grown ups, and
basically,
um,
had called her father N-word lover.
yes, that's what I was getting at.
And that one was you didn't see the fight, you just knew what happened, and he had to talk to her about it. And this is
Mm.
all happening before they even have a trial with Tom. So these are all things that are happening to the kids. So they're having to deal with more and more problems when they go to school, and how he handles the situations back on the home front. And yes, of course, they're going to get a lot of reprimanding because that's not how people should respond to things. It
Oh,
is not. Yes, it's okay to stand up for your beliefs, but not when you're a minor and you're underage to be she is way too underage to be having the mindset to have a fight. No offense.
well, I thought in the case of Walter, I think she was wrong to attack him, but in that other case, I didn't think she was wrong.
Even then, she was wrong because it is never right to fight for any reason. I'm not saying don't defend yourself, but don't be the one to start the fight. Because as far as anything is concerned, only words were spoken, and no matter how bad those words are, they're mainly only words. Have you ever heard the old saying, "Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me"?
Yes.
Yes,
That's
only I heard it differently. The words will never hurt me, not names.
I've heard words and I've heard names before, so I've heard it told two different kinds of ways. But no matter what, it still means the same thing.
Right.
Words are only words, and if you ignore it all, it'll eventually go away.
Yep, I know how that works.
But when you're a kid, you're not thinking about that. So the first instant, the first, there's a cause to every reaction, or there's a cause and an effect to every situation. So If
Well,
you
I was going to
cause
say, I know what you mean about the words because my ex before you, yes, we played that game quite well. He would start running his mouth and everything, and I would just sit there and ignore him. And well, he was the one who had to disappear. Imagine that.
imagine that. But see, most kids don't think about that when they're that age. They just think, okay, they're saying something. I need to defend myself with from them words. So they think that that okay, violence begets violence. No, it does not. Um,
So bullies should just get away with their shit.
I'm not saying that. Uh, it's just you shouldn't be the one causing things. According to if you go by what the Bible says, it says turn the other cheek regardless.
Uh,
And that's
though,
if you go by the Bible. You let he who cast the first stone uh, with he who has never sinned cast the first stone. That's what you should say first.
yeah, but bullies break that rule first.
Yes, but you shouldn't continue it in any response. There are ways to be above those people, and if you fight with them, then you're just getting down to his level, and you're just as much a bully.
Uh, well, and how is caring about levels going to result in justice being done?
Caring about what?
Levels.
What do you mean levels?
You said if you attack a bully back, you just put yourself down to their level. But I say if we only care about that, how are bullies ever going to get what they deserve?
You make sure that whoever's responsible for them knows what they've done after the fact, and if they have hurt you, then you have the bruises or whatever to show that person that that's what happened from them. You take it to the source. Although, unfortunately, in this day and age, somebody's liable to bring a gun. So I'm not sure what to do in that because evidently guns solve problems these days. Do they? No.
Not really.
Oh, somebody just ends up dead in those situations. But you try to be. Uh, do you know what I'm saying, Tammy?
Well, yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's a catch-22. You gotta figure. There's gotta be a point, okay? Now, what I was saying about my ex, okay? Yeah, he could sit there and run his mouth and everything else, and I could just sit there and ignore him when we were he'd be on one side of the bar, I was on the other. He even got in my face, and I just sat there and ignored him, and he was kicked out of the bar. Now, if he would have physically touched me, that's where things sometimes get a little bit different because you have, no matter what, you do have the right and you should defend yourself. Okay, that
If
uh, you know it wouldn't have been right for me to go and hit him just because he was running his mouth at me. But if he touched me and hit me, yes, I, I shouldn't necessarily just take that. That then it gets to a point where you should defend yourself. If it becomes physical, it is. I know what you're saying about turn the other cheek, but when it becomes physical, how much of that are you really expected to take
Now, we
before
hadn't
you
talked about physical. If they hit you, then you have every right, think, to hit them back.
correct,
What I'm saying is that you should do everything you can not to be the one to start anything.
correct,
That means no wording back to the bully, no physical shit towards him unless he does it first, or they, or her. You know, if there is a
right.
bully there, ignore until you don't have to.
Like Patrick Swayze said in Roadhouse, "Be nice till it's time not to be nice."
I'm sorry, how did he say it?
Be nice until you
Until
don't
it's
have to
time.
be, until it's time not to be nice.
Ah, makes sense.
You can't just as soon as somebody bullies you, it'd be like, okay, buddy, pow. No, that's not how it works. You have to be willing to be patient enough to take a few words until they get so angry that they try to punch you, and if they do, be able to land the second punch. I'm not saying violence begets violence, and I'm not saying that if you do so, that you're not gonna get in trouble in the end. In the end, either, or whatnot. But at least then you have the right of self defense. So, but
Either way,
that
it is hard. It is very hard, But it is one thing that my mom had taught me, and it has worked to my advantage more than once, to just let the other person act out and let the other person be seen acting out and let the other person get in trouble. It has been it definitely has worked for me more than once. So
okay. So having all that happen with Scout, um, where she's definitely not your typical girl. Especially, I think it's precious when there's a neighbor that Atticus is getting friendly with, which I think he's trying to move on in a relationship with this woman. I mean, they don't exactly say it. It's not exactly told to the kids that this is happening, but I do believe that this woman giving her this dress and her having to come down to breakfast in the dress because it's school time. Uh, the fact that she doesn't want to wear it is kind of precious because she's so used to being a tomboy. You know,
Uh, yeah.
she's she even tries to. I mean, she even tries to mess with the collar because evidently it itches where her neck is or whatnot. But they end up going to school, and she fights in that dress. So, but ultimately, there is a moment where it has come time. Oh, and before that even happens, Jem tells her, and this is after his clothes were caught on the fence of Boo Radley's, and he had to leave his clothes there. Evidently, when he went back, he found his clothes all neatly folded, as if they were waiting for him.
Yeah, that was what's the that was one of the first signs that Boo was going to turn out to be a good guy. Although nowadays that could kind of be predicted from how they described him at the beginning. Like nowadays, you expect that to turn out not to be quite true.
Well, and there is a moment where um okay, I do believe that two carved uh wooden figurines were found in that knobby hole in the tree, and they kind of looked like Gem and Scout, as if they had been whittled for them specifically. And Gem actually showed Scout all these things that evidently were being kept being left for Gem to pick up, like a stopwatch and a few other things. And this is, I think he was trying to keep it a secret that he kept finding things there. And I think Jem was the first one who thought that Boo Radley was um, different. But we never saw him um, interact with Boo. All we saw was the shadow of what we think was Boo Radley scare them off.
Oh yeah, and who was that shadow? Actually, it wasn't explained, was it?
It wasn't explained, but you're led to believe that it was Boo Radley that scared them off, and
Uh,
I think it was.
huh. And
But
I thought, since he turns out to be a good guy, that the shadow would be someone else. But
well,
maybe I'm wrong.
and there's also a moment where Atticus Finch ends up sitting down and talking to Scout about a compromise, and I think he also told her a story about how you don't kill him. How there was a day when he was younger, and he was told not to kill a mockingbird. I forget exactly the quotation, but it brings about the title of the movie and the title of the book. Let me see if I can find the quote. I remember when my daddy gave me that gun. He told me that I should never point it at anything in the house, and that he'd rather I'd shoot at tin cans in the backyard. But he said that sooner or later he supposed the temptation to go after birds would be too much, and that I could shoot all the blue jays I wanted if I could hit 'em. But to remember it was a sin to kill a mockingbird. Jem said, "Why?" And Atticus Finch said, "Well, I reckon because mockingbirds don't do anything but make music for us to enjoy. They don't eat people's gardens, don't nest in the corn crib. They don't do one thing but just sing their hearts out for us."
Yeah, well, I agree about walking birds. That part kind of left me wondering what the hell was wrong with those people who thought shooting other birds was right, just to do it for no reason.
Well, I imagine at that point in time, birds were quite uh, numerous and probably oftentimes uh, overcrowded people's backyards. Um,
Some
sometimes,
birds were pesky, you know.
yeah. So they would think that shooting these birds were was a much more tin cans was much more harmless than them shooting at other people or things of that nature, which I can see. I mean, just like squirrels can be quite pesky. If you get them in anywhere near your house, they'll be eating through your roof like nothing else. And I remember quite a few people taking some BB guns up to attics to shoot some squirrels. Uh,
Oh,
I remember we were just by your parents' house, and your dad, you guys were gone, and that there was a squirrel messing with the bird feeder stuff that they had put out for the little birdies, and your dad he opened up the door really slowly, and he scared that poor squirrel. Yeah, the squirrel just like froze. He just stared at your dad. He froze, and then he jumped.
oh, but he didn't kill the squirrel.
No,
no,
but he scared the
Oh,
living daylights out of him. The squirrel. It was just funny
but
because
if
I
it
was still in
wasn't,
the house watching what happened because where we were. That squirrel just literally froze.
there are
oh,
things that animals do that they're not supposed to do, and the way to get rid of them is either to trap them or to shoot them because you don't want them to continue to ruin your house. You know, your
What wasn't
house.
it the woodchucks that they had?
Yeah, they had
And your
chuck
dad caught them.
problem.
Your dad caught them in traps and then released them somewhere else. He didn't kill them. He caught them and released them.
Yep, he caught them
that's
and then
fair
released
enough.
them back into to the wild. But I know that there are people who would probably have uh, carried out the situation differently and just outright killed them, just to make sure that it stopped them from doing anything else damage worthy
And
of their house.
back at this time, I don't. I think people more or less thought that way. Let's just get rid of the pests. They didn't. They weren't thinking about humanely trapping them and letting them go somewhere else. At this period of time, in this period of time, it was let's get rid of the pest. You know.
It wasn't until the last 30 years that people started thinking more about the humanity of what's happening to the animals. You know, I I I get it that you seem to have an affinity for not killing animals or whatnot,
Of
but
course.
there are reasons why people do so, and they are very good reasons why. But there are also some bad reasons why to do it for the sport outside of your home and not like use their meat for having it on the table or whatnot. That's a little bit more gray area. I mean,
Well, I think
kit.
nowadays it's things are monitored a lot more too, and it's like, you know, things are set up that okay, there is an overpopulation, so okay, we're gonna have a hunting season because if we don't, they're overpopulated, and it's it doesn't sound totally humane, but in a way it is because if let's say the deer population is overpopulated, if you do not take some of that population down, then there is not going to be enough food for all of them. and enough room for them to live and to thrive. So you need to back off some of that population. It is, you know, it comes around to where it actually is helpful not only to the animals but to us too. I mean, some people don't agree with the with hunting and don't like hunting, but you know, they set it up for a reason that because there's an overpopulation. You know.
Well, killing animals for food is kind of tragic, but it makes sense. I mean, animals do it too, and we have to eat. So if it's done for food, it's not something I would like to do myself, but it's something I can understand. And
Right, when they have the deer hunting thing every year, I don't know what they do by you, but every year they do have a deer hunting season by us, and there are places that you can take the deer, and they will make it into, you know, they will cut it up and make them, so that you have venison to eat, so it thins out the population so that the deer basically have enough food for themselves to eat and to thrive. But then, and then in turn, we eat the deer that were shot, or that were killed, you know. So it is. I don't want to say it more or less as a win-win situation, but in a way, it is. It is benefiting the deer, and it is benefiting us also by having the deer hunting season.
Yep.
And it is regulated. You're only allowed so many, and you have to have a license. You have to have the it's totally by the DNR is totally regulated. So you
I
can't
mean,
go. One person can't go out there and shoot 12 deer.
well, yeah.
That makes sense, but in this movie they were talking about killing birds, not for necessity, but for not out of necessity, but out of temptation. Like kids would do it just to feel cool or whatever, and I was like, are those kids psychopaths or what?
Unfortunately, that's how people were grew up here in the States. I mean, uh, there are still many people who grow up hunters. It's passed down from father to father to father. I mean, even cavemen hunted.
And there are still people that think of, okay, that's a nuisance. We're just gonna take care of it. There's some people that do it with the traps and release. There's some people that don't, that just, especially in the more rural areas, they don't always think of that. They just think of, because of how they were brought up. Okay,
it's a
you know,
pest, and
yeah.
it's not going to go away. So better off dead and gotten rid of. And yeah, it might be a lazy way of doing it, in it, but and then it's not on my land anymore, and not on this earth for me to worry about. And unfortunately, we are the kings and queens of the earth that we live on. So, uh, if if we are the providers and whatnot on your land, then you're going to do whatever you can to protect it. And if killing it is a way to stop the problem, then yes, that is something that's. I mean, if you don't know how to trap something, then I mean, having never been a landowner yourself, you probably don't understand some things that you have to protect. So if there was an animal that kept eating at your house, what are you going to do?
Well, in that case, it counts as self-defense, but I think that should be an option only when there is really no other option. But as long as there is any other option, killing should be a crime.
Well, you probably never grew up with people who went and hunted for sport. I grew up with half of my family hunting for sport.
Well, they
And
did. They did use the venison meat though, so
yes, they did
it's
use the
so
venison meat,
so it isn't. It's not hunting for sport if they made use of it. Hunting for sport is just killing it and boom, you know.
leaving it in the woods, which is technically against the law, anyways.
Right.
And it should be. Yeah, if the meat is used for food, then okay. But just killing an animal just to kill it, that
Or
really
taking
should
your
be.
vehicle and running them over is not is for sport too. There
Well,
Right.
are
Basically,
people who do that.
the they call them poachers, the ones that just do it for sport. You know, the ones that they go over to Africa and they kill the elephants just to get their, um,
Tusks.
just to get the tusks. You know, and things
those
like
people
that.
should be in prison. Fucking hell.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, uh, we can't stop them entirely. And unfortunately, there are still poachers in Africa. We can't. Unfortunately, we don't live there either, so we can't exactly force our hand on you know applying justice to those kinds of people. But anyways, back to the movie.
Yes.
We are way
Yeah.
off topic. So ultimately, there is a night where Atticus Finch does, in fact, I believe Tom Robinson uh, has to come back and stay one night in town, and he has to go over to the jail and protect him. And Scout and Jem and their neighbor friend Dale, they are definitely children without uh, uh, without being told what to do too much too often, because they are out after dark and they're caught in the middle of the mob, uh, helping defend. There's something I have respect for Jem. In is that he told his father no, that he wasn't going to take them back because for some reason I think Jem knew something was off and something was wrong, and I think it's thanks to Scout's honesty to one of the farmers, and her talking to him, which kind of helped cool the mob down.
Well, actually, yeah. I mean, if the children hadn't arrived, that mob would have maybe even killed Atticus. But when there were also children involved, that is likely to give more people second thoughts. And make the entire problem go away.
Well, what do you think about this moment, Tammy?
I think her innocence and everything is what stopped um a bad situation from happening. You know, because those all of those people were there to basically lynch Tom Robinson, and they did not. They didn't care about the law. They didn't care. You know, they wanted to be. They wanted to
Country
be.
justice.
Yep. So by her speaking out like she did, and it it made them all think, and her innocence is they turned around and left. I don't I think things could have really gone in a not pleasant way if those children would not have shown up.
Well, yeah, they, like I said, without the children, they probably wouldn't have hesitated to attack Atticus with all those tools they had. But when they realized if they went through with it, that innocent children might get hurt, then they started to hesitate, and so it could be resolved without major incidents.
Okay. So,
At least that's how I understood it.
so ultimately, after that happened, then of course we have the beginning of the trial, and if I remember correctly, um, trying to remember what the name of the young girl what the young
Uh,
lady was.
Vayela,
That was her name.
the girl who was allegedly raped.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So Maella Violet Ewell, if I remember correctly, who was played by Colin Wilcox Paxton. Um, she is evidently the wife of a farmer, and from what I understand, the farmer is in fact uh, a drunk,
Uh,
oftentimes.
Wait, I'm sorry, wife? I thought she was his daughter. Or am I
Oh yeah, that's
wrong?
right. That's right. He was the daughter, but I know she had kids. So I was trying to understand where the husband was in all of this.
Uh, well, they were talking about there being kids in the house, and yeah, I was a little confused about that, but I thought they were maybe her brothers or her siblings, but I'm not sure entirely.
I'm not sure entirely either, but there were kids involved, and supposedly they were not there at the moment in the night in question. And according to her, she had only the one time asked him in to uh what was it that she said? I was trying to chop some. Tammy, do you remember exactly what it was that she had him do?
It was chopped some kind of wood, but I don't remember what it was for. Some
Okay,
kindling, maybe kindling or whatever. I don't know.
okay. So, um, according to her testimony, she'd never seen him before in her life. So on the night in question, she asked him to come in, chop something up, and then she turned around and suddenly his hands were upon her and beat on her and raped her. At least that's what I gather. And somehow Tom was caught by the father, and then the sheriff came and yada yada yada. That's what she said, and then before that, you had the father who evidently had heard the screams of his daughter, came and saw that she had been beaten upon, and I think there was another guy that they had asked beforehand, like the sheriff guy. The sheriff was asked what side that she'd been roughed up on, and Atticus made it a very good point to ask him all kinds of questions, and he couldn't come up with like which side, the right side at all, you know. And the evidence that Atticus uncovered, that jury should not have come out with as being guilty, you know. But there was enough prejudice in that town to come out with just straight up guilty, and I believe that it was all because of the color of his skin.
Oh, pretty much, yes.
But but you could tell that the place was segregated because the colored folks were above in the balcony, and they were watching along with Scout and her brother, if I remember correctly, the whole trial.
Yes. I think it was that way.
Tammy, you were going to say something?
All three of the children were out there watching it.
Okay.
True.
All three of the children, which they've been nosy since the get go, because they were there when he was arraigned and the trial was set, and their father told them to go on now get, you know, sometime before that, but okay, so Tom was brought to the stand, and the way Tom said it is that basically the way to go home to his home, he had to pass by this lady's land every single night. There was no way to get out of passing by her place. And on numerous times, she had called him to come and help with something or other. And then the night in question, she's the one who came on to him and tried to get him to touch her and whatnot. And I believe he picked up a chair and he threw it against a wall in the room, but that is the only thing that happened, if I remember correctly.
No. The night in question was the first time he had actually been in the house. She asked him to come in the house to do something. And while he was standing on the chair, she grabbed onto his legs. And it surprised and shocked him so much that he fell off of the chair. And then that is how the chair got broken.
Spud down.
Okay, and in that process, it might have actually hurt her?
No.
Okay.
But he had that is when he had told her, you know, no, and he was trying to avoid her advances, and that's when her husband had looked through the window and had
You,
seen, and he saw what he
you,
thought he saw.
you mean her father?
Yeah, because that was her father.
I mean, her father looked through the window, and then um, the father started screaming that he was going to kill him, and that's when he took off because, but Tom also said that the father had threatened her that he was going to kill her also
Okay.
in his testimony.
Yes. That's that is what happened.
Oh yeah, did anyone else get the impression that that girl was the way she was in general because she was maybe abused by her father?
Oh, I'm pretty darn sure that she was abused by her father quite a bit. And if those kids weren't hers, then I'm kind of wondering whose they were, because it was said that that she had kids, and
Well,
they were away having ice cream.
it was said that there were kids in the house. It wasn't said whose kids they were, but I could try to Google it. To kill a walking bird, kids in Ewell house. Huh. There are, uh, huh. According to Google Gemini, there are 8 Ewell children, with Mayela being the eldest at 19. So, if that info is correct, that implies those other are her siblings.
Okay, so apparently, apparently eight other siblings. Okay, that's a large family for that much of a drunkard. But in any case, uh,
Ooh,
but
ooh.
yeah, at the end of even hearing that testimony from Tom did not sway the jury at all. It was a disappointment to at least half the people in that building. And the thing that Atticus said is that even people of color are human beings, and that's what I don't get, that you people don't understand. Um,
Eh, Yeah, well, one thing I really have to give this movie credit for is that already back in the early 60s, someone had enough awareness of how wrong racism is, and felt inspired to point it out in a movie. I find that very interesting, since
I will
that's a
I will say that it only took one take of Gregory Peck to do that closing statement of his.
whew.
Um, and this is that statement. To begin with, this case should never come to trial. The state has not produced one iota of medical evidence that the crime Tom Robinson is charged with ever took place. It has relied instead upon the testimony of two witnesses whose evidence has not only been called into serious question on cross examination, but has been flatly contradicted by the defendant. Now, there is circumstantial evidence to indicate that Mayella Ewell was beaten savagely by someone who led exclusively with his left. And Tom, oh, that's another thing. Tom's right, what is it, left hand?
Yeah, his left hand was he couldn't use it.
Yeah, he couldn't use it, and it was exquisitely found out that whoever beat her up did so with her with his or her left hand. Which
And he
Tom,
even proved it in court because he threw a ball or something at him and he caught it in his right hand and he said, now catch it in your left. And he said, I can't.
correct.
Yes.
And Tom Robinson now sits before you, having taken the oath with the only good hand he possesses, his right. I have nothing but pity in my heart for the chief witness for the state. She is the victim of cruel poverty and ignorance, but my pity does not extend so far as to her putting a man's life at stake, which she has done in an effort to get rid of her own guilt. Now I say guilt, gentlemen, because it was guilt that motivated her. She's committed no crime. She has merely broken a rigid and time-honored code of our society. A code so severe that whoever breaks it is hounded from our midst as unfit to live with. She must destroy the evidence of her offense. But what was the evidence of her offense? Tom Robinson, a human being. She must put Tom Robinson away from her. Tom Robinson was to her a daily reminder of what she did. Now, what did she do? She tempted a Negro. She was white and she tempted a Negro. She did something that in our society is unspeakable. She kissed a black man. That's right, she kissed him. Not an old uncle, but a strong young Negro man. No code mattered to her before she broke it, but it came crashing down on her afterwards. The witness for the state, with the exception of the sheriff of Macomb County, have presented themselves to you gentlemen to this court in the cynical confidence that their testimony would not be doubted, confident that you gentlemen would go along with them on the assumption, the evil assumption that all Negroes lie. All Negroes are basically immoral beings. All Negro men are not to be trusted around our women. An assumption that one associates with minds of their caliber, and which is, in itself, gentlemen, a lie, which I do not need to point out to you. And so a quiet, humble, respectable Negro who has had the unmitigated temerity to feel sorry for a white woman has had to put his word against two white people's. The defendant is not guilty, but someone in this courtroom is. Now, gentlemen, in this country, our courts are the great levelers. In our courts, all men are created equal. I'm no idealist to believe firmly in the integrity of our courts and of our jury system. That's no ideal to me. That is a living, working reality. Now, I am confident that you gentlemen will review without passion the evidence that you have heard, come to a decision, and restore this man to his family in the name of God. Do your duty. In the name of God, believe Tom Robinson. So, that being said, that was all done in one take.
Oh wow.
uh, did you have anything to say about that closing argument, Tammy?
It was a wonderful closing argument. It is just a shame that it wasn't actually listened to. And it
Yes.
was not taken. It was not taken to heart. It was not taken for the law um, that it emphasized in it. It was It was just very much a shame that it was like he was reciting his grocery list. Is the way that's the way it seemed like it came across to all of the white people in that courtroom.
Well, it fell on deaf ears because those jurors weren't justifiable jurors. I think they should have gone and found some jurors from some other county.
They
Then,
didn't do that back then, though.
yeah, I know.
That's why I said. That's why I said during our previous discussion about court-related movie that it shouldn't be legal to put some random assholes into the jury. That the
Well,
jurors should be
it's
professionals.
they certainly weren't a jury of the defendant's peers.
The court system has actually learned a lot of things over the years. You know, they do change jurisdictions. You know, the jury is more. It's not all white men or all white women or all just men or all just women. The jury is definitely
Well, they should be professionals trained to analyze the evidence objectively.
And
well,
they did.
the jury is never professionals. I don't know how things work
And
with your court system, but over here
that's a problem.
the jury is never a profession. They're not professionals, but they are picked by the lawyers. The lawyers pick the juries, and but compared to at this day and age, I don't know how they picked the jury back then, but it was always white men, white men, white men, and that's it. You know, so the system has come a long way since then. So
Well, and that jury came back with entirely guilty. And he tries to tell Tom that they have uh, strong enough evidence to make an appeal. But Tom leaves that courtroom as if that was the sentence of his life. And from what I understand, he was lynched anyways, wasn't he?
um,
Uh,
from what I understand, he broke free when they went to go transfer him back to the jail. He broke free and ran, and they shot him.
Which is sad. Cause he might have actually been able to possibly live a little longer if he had maybe waited for the appeal,
But he
but
didn't believe in it. He saw what happened, and in that in his mind,
that was it.
that was it. Yes, he did
You
not
might
believe.
as well kill me,
I
right?
believe when he broke free, he was trying to run home to at least see his family one more time. Is what was understood of what when he broke free and where he was going
Yeah.
when they shot him.
And that was something of a letdown.
Definitely.
And then, of course, time moved on, and there came. I believe that there was a Halloween moment. I thought this was a little funny. Scout dressed up like a ham,
Yes.
and her and her brother were on their way back from somewhere, and they were attacked
They were on the
by.
way back from the play because she had somehow misplaced her shoes and her dress, so she had to keep the ham costume on.
So uh that was a little bit controversial. Maybe because then now you're thinking that this child, girl child, is now naked underneath that thing, at least topless naked. Uh,
Well, she had at that time children did wear underclothes.
like a shift.
She had a t-shirt on and things and stuff underneath, but you didn't know what she had underneath. But whatever she had underneath was not probably considered appropriate to be running around in.
Nope.
This where she only had the underclothes on underneath.
Yeah, she did have something on after she took that
And what was the play?
costume off.
What was the play that they went to?
She was part of a play. That's why she was dressed as a ham.
Okay, but she mentioned that it was Halloween.
Yes. So it was something with Halloween, and everybody dressed up that was, part of it, and she was a ham.
Well, in any case, they're on their way back when suddenly Jem is her brother
We'll have
is
to get one of those hams and put it on our ham that's running around here.
right. But we have a Jem and her walking side by side back home when suddenly Jem is accosted by that old man, the I guess whoever is taking care of Boo Radley. I think, or was it the?
It was a drunk white gentleman that kept showing up. The father.
Oh, the father. Yes.
It was him.
Okay.
We find out that it was him because yeah.
He didn't like the stuff that the father actually ended up doing. So he attacked Jem. Jem fought back. Scout jumped on him and tried to do something, and she got knocked to a tree. And that's when we see a pair of hands show up, and you hear a fight that ensues, and she ends up following a character that is carrying her brother back to their home, and that's when Atticus comes out, asks what happened, and she says she doesn't know, and so the sheriff is called, um, and when the sheriff is called, he basically says that there's a body that was found, and I guess when they go in and see Jem, um, I believe that
Jeb is unconscious. Yes,
correct, and they're talking about how it looks like two individuals had been fighting, and then one there was a knife involved, and it ended up being that drunk man, which I don't, Mr. Ewell.
and at first Atticus thinks that Jeb is the one that killed him.
Correct.
And until the sheriff makes it, lets him know that no, it was self-inflicted.
Well, and then Scout said that she heard a scuffle, she doesn't know exactly what went down, but she followed a man that was carrying her brother inside, and then she pointed right behind them because Boo Radley was standing right behind the door, and he's kind of what you would call the gentle giant, sort of. And Robert Duvall, well, he didn't even have to say anything as Boo Radley. All he had to do was just show his shadow and like the groundhog and uh uh show up when he was needed. And I believe that the sheriff had actually said if there was in fact a scuffle between Boo Radley and this man, then I would probably be the one that all the people would probably put in a bad light because I pointed the finger at him. Because I know that he will probably be the hero of the town, and that justice might be served. Something to that effect, because he did not want to arrest Boo Radley for anything that he did, and for all intents and purposes, it does look like the dude fell on his own knife.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's when they said that the basically in a way justice was served.
One thing that left me wondering though was we never found out what exact mental condition Boo Radley supposedly had. Why he wasn't talking and where all the rumors about him being crazy and dangerous came from.
I'm thinking that he is slow or maybe autistic, but
Yeah,
um,
definitely an early autistic caricature kind of a person. So this
and
has
that
got to
would
be
explain why people at that time they didn't understand that. And if he was autistic, that would explain if they saw him act out or whatever,
cor-
because that would be a normal behavior of somebody that's autistic, for them to
correct.
have kind of like you might want to call it a temper tantrum. That is
Yeah,
it is a normal behavior, but people at that time didn't understand autism. You
nope.
know,
But from what I gather, Boo Radley was the only one who lived at that residence at that time. I think whatever happened to him, I think his family died or whatnot, if I remember correctly.
I
And
was
well, his
checking it.
father lived there. His father is the one that closed,
Uh,
put the
w-
cement in the tree and things like that. That is his father.
Wikipedia says that person is his brother, actually.
Oh,
really,
But although
I thought it
I
was
didn't,
his father.
I
I thought
I
it was his father
didn't
too.
I didn't pick that up from the movie either. I also thought it was his father, but Wikipedia says it's a brother, Nathan Radley.
Okay. So at least one of his family members actually takes care of him or whatnot. But in any case, uh, we are now ending there. So, what did y'all think about production overall? Boris, what did you think?
Oh, I think it was okay. I mean, the it's a it's a fairly realistic story with no supernatural elements or anything like that that would require special effects. For that time period, that probably made it easier to make. Uh, but yeah, for what they needed to do for the movie, everything was done well enough, I'd say.
Okay. What about you, Tammy? What did you think about production overall?
I thought it was good. I mean, it seemed like it was definitely set. The time period seemed very believable. The opinions that they had, the people of the village, how they reacted to things, and their opinions seemed like it was of that time. The dress, the, you know, the vehicles, it all seemed like it fit for that time period. So
Alrighty. Well, I'm grabbing the photo uh, that my parents got for me so that I can show it here really quick because I think this is kind of a unique thing. So, uh, let's see if I can't hit this way. Yeah, make it long instead of okay. So this says to David, thank you for. You can see it right there.
Oh, cool.
I'm trying to read this. Let me see if I can't. Thank you for your love of this film. All all the I can't read that word, but from Mary Badham, Scout.
Wow. Congratulations.
So I like this autograph. So I I don't know if she's still alive, but I'm glad that my parents had the opportunity to meet her through that. So in any case, um, I myself think that the production was pretty darn great overall. I mean, you got to have the feel of the town. Oh, and I have to like the very beginning where Scout is kind of insults the old lady that's sitting on the porch, but then her father comes by and charms her charms her by talking about her garden and saying that it's all the rage and she's got to be very proud that it's the best garden in Macomb.
Yeah.
But I enjoy the production overall. You got the sense that a trial was going on, the sense of hatred from certain people, the idiosyncrasies that you got from the other side of the um even the fact that the prosecutor himself questioned the fact that he felt anything of felt sorry for her, as if a colored man could have feelings of any kind. You know, that was what he was kind of sort of questioning at the end there. Like, how do you allow that kind of racism in your court? You know,
Yeah.
but I enjoyed it. I enjoy this film because it shows it shows a sort of coming coming of age with Scout and learning about the prejudices at an early age and having to deal with the loss of a mother and the first beginnings of going to school, having to deal with all of these the subject matter at an age where she probably should not have been uh, a witness to, you know. Uh,
Definitely.
the townspeople should have been all like lined up and shot. Those jurors should have been taken out and hung. But
Uh, yes.
um, that being said, what did y'all think about the music, if there was any?
Uh, well, there was some background music, but I didn't really notice much of that.
I didn't really notice anything either. Sorry.
That's okay. I'm looking up who actually did. Elmer Bernstein was the composer, and he did composing music for movies like Far From Heaven. He was part of the music behind the Wild Wild West movie, the Magnificent Seven. He was part of the music department. Let's see, looking for composer. Okay, so he was the composer for the theme music behind the Ghostbusters, the video game, and probably the Ghostbusters music. Let's see. He was the conductor for Bringing Out the Dead. He was a composer of some of the original themes of the Magnificent Seven TV series. Let's see. He was an executive in charge of the music of the Beavis and Butthead Do America animation. He was a composer for some of the unused score in the Scarlet Letter. Let's see. He was the conductor, a conductor that was uncredited in The Good Son.
Wow. The 1993 movie.
He was a composer of unused music in Innocent Blood. He was a
Oh.
conductor for Bernard Herrmann's original music for Cape Fear.
Huh.
He was a composer and unused score of Murder in Mississippi. Slipstream, he was a conductor or orchestrator who was uncredited in the Three Amigos. He was a conductor that was uncredited in The Black Cauldron. But yeah, he was a conductor who was uncredited for the original Ghostbusters. He was a conductor who was uncredited in Space Hunter Adventures in the Forbidden Zone. He was a conductor for heavy metal. He was a conductor and music producer that went uncredited in Stripes and Airplane and the Blues Brothers. He composed the God theme. So he was quite a part of quite a few things. Let's see. The Queen theme in the Ellery Queen TV series. Yeah, you did the theme for that. But yeah, He was quite a part of quite of a lot, and a lot of. He did some stuff for True Grit, the other Magnificent Seven movies, Hawaii, The Silencers. Let's see, goes back all the way to 1922. But the first thing that he was a director of was in a movie called Sudden Fear that had Joan Crawford in it. And then, of course, he was a music director in Robot Monster, Women on the Moon, Miss Robinson Crusoe, The Man with the Golden Arm. He was an uncredited conductor and score producer. He was a conductor and music producer on the Ten Commandments. Daughter of Dr. Jekyll. And so on and so forth. So, in any case, let's go into. Huh. Let's go into favorite scenes and our favorite characters. Start with you, Tammy.
Um, my favorite character is Scout. I like her. She's just a little firecracker. I like her. um, favorite scenes. Oh boy. Hmm. I think one of my favorite scenes is when Atticus is trying to um, explain what a compromise is to her and tells her the story.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that. I think that's a really cool scene.
Well, yeah, because it's a way that he gets her to go to school, and he also promises her that he'll still read to her every single night, like they always do.
Right.
Is that it then?
Yep.
Alrighty, heading over to you, Boris. Favorite scenes and or favorite characters.
Oh, oh, a tough question. I liked the kids, but I also liked Atticus. I think maybe Atticus is my favorite character after all. I like how he stands for what he believes is right and fights for it until the end. And I also like how he handles situations as a father. Uh, mm, like even when even when the children disobey him, he doesn't seem to punish them much, which is something I liked about his character. And my favorite scene, who, well, definitely one of my favorite. Okay, not sure if we can call it a favorite scene when it ended so badly, but yeah, his speech in the courtroom was very impressive, but the outcome of it was disappointing, so I'm not sure if I can call it a favorite scene. But one scene I definitely liked was the final confrontation with Bob Ewell when Boo Radley killed him, and when we eventually found out that he did it, and that Boo was never a bad guy to begin with. That whole thing at the end, I guess that would probably be my favorite scene.
Okay. Let's see. My favorite three characters are Atticus, Boo Radley, and Scout. Because Scout, she's a little spitfire.
Yes.
Uh, she's like your Tom Sawyer of the whole gang. And Jem's like the cool headed one, even though he still does whatever his buddy Dale dares him to. Um, but Atticus has uh, a lot to show as a father type figure. So I think he plays a cool leveled headed a man who has a lot of wisdom when he speaks to his children and whatnot. Yes, he is very firm, and he is not afraid to um, reprimand his children for doing wrong. Um, you can tell that you know he cares about them. So I feel like they showed a humanity as side of Atticus as well as uh the lawyer side, you know. Um and I feel like Boo Radley is the unsung hero in here. He's kind of the mystery man that the kids all want to try to get to see at least a little bit of him because he's the talk of the town, talk of the kids and whatnot, and he lives not far from them. You know, so the curiosity always killed the cat, but they were curious about him. So, um, but also being his first role and not having to do much is fairly similar to a lot of earlier roles from some other actors that I know. Like I know John Travolta. I believe he played a role in Devil's Reign where he didn't have to say a darn thing. He was just a victim of the cult, so he was a faceless man in there. Um, but that wasn't his first. You know, was his first horror film, but yeah. Um, in any case, favorite scene. I do like the scene that you chose, Tammy. So that's gonna be one of them. But I do like Atticus's clothing statement out of all of it, and the fact that the all the colored folks stood up at the end of the trial in respect for him. Um, when he delivered his speech and at the end of everything, even though it went sour, they still had respect for him standing up for
Yeah,
their
that was a memorable scene too. Yeah, where they all stood up like that because that showed that they had they knew he had respect for them, and then in turn they had it for him. You know.
correct, and they made sure Scout stood too, and her brother and the other kid as well, because they were just sitting there. Stand up, it's your daddy, you know. So,
Well, yeah, because the children didn't understand. You know what they were doing. You know.
and for some reason, I like the fact that Scout actually went inside that tire and rolled herself there to the home of Boo Radley, and for some reason, that just kind of made me chuckle. Um, but other than that, I also like the fact that she pointed out Boo Radley standing behind the door, like nobody realized he was there until she pointed at him. All of a sudden he was just there. And the door just kind of creaked open, and yep, there he was, standing silently. So, other than that, there is something that I want to mention. I don't remember what high school denied it, but uh, I remember there being in the news that a high school actually for a school board forbade a school on the north side of Milwaukee from actually putting the play on because it was too racist.
Well, I would say it's at least judging by this movie, I think the story speaks against racism, if anything.
Yeah, I agree too.
Well, the funny thing is,
It disgusted me
for
at
many,
the time,
many,
though.
the funny thing about that though is for many, many years, um, the book itself was almost like part of the curriculum.
Well,
I
it was
mean,
also a book that was blacklisted a little bit too at first.
well, recently it got a more, it did, but I remember, I remember the book in when I was in school, and I know your parents, and I'm sure my parents, you know, it was something that was, you know, that book has been a very, very popular read as far as in school for many years. So
I'm looking.
it's just the last few years with everything, pointing that's racist and that's racist and that's pointing their fingers at every stupid thing. I mean, to the point where Aunt Jemima's syrup had to change and Uncle Ben's rice had to change.
Yeah.
Okay, so Shorewood High canceled To Kill a Mockingbird because critics planned a protest over the use of the racial slur of the N-word.
Well, but the usage of it is portrayed in a negative light. Yeah, the word does appear in the dialogues, but it's used by the bad guys only. And the story is not written in a way to imply that the word should be used in real life.
This was in 2018. When Shorewood High School chose To Kill a Mockingbird at this year's fall play, and this was October 11th, 2018. It seemed a relevant commentary on the times. Based on the Harper Lee classic about a white Southern lawyer defending an innocent black man in the 1930s, it is a story about the segregation and racism of broken criminal justice system and the sacrifices of those who would stand up for what is right. But Lee's book, which has been banned by many schools across the country, remains as controversial today as it did when she wrote it. On Thursday, just hours before the curtain was to go up, Shorewood canceled the production in response to a planned protest over the use of the N-word in some scenes. News of a protest had circulated on social media early in the day, and by mid-afternoon, Superintendent Brian Davis pulled the plug, saying the district should have done a better job engaging the community about the sensitivity of this performance. So basically, they pussied back because of a possible planned protest against the use of the N-word in this play, even though it was used in the movie, it was used in the book, and people have no problem. Well, it's controversial, and I guess the book's been banned. in many school systems. Although I don't know why.
Yeah, but why do they disregard the context? I mean, yes, the word does appear, but it's used only by the villains, and the moral message of the story is that racism is wrong. So,
I agree, but as someone who was of color once told me, it was the word white people gave to them, and it's their word, and and in their terminology, it's their word to use, not the not for white folks to use it. So, on one hand, I see that. On another, I don't get why we can't talk about it, discuss it, and enact it on stage, because it was a time period, uh and yes, it is controversial, but it happened, and the book is a memoir of the life of Harper Lee, at least a moment in Harper Lee's lifetime. So it was a reality to her, and a reality that she shared. Whether or not it's controversial, it's if it's controversial, it's because the public people uh, are enraging themselves and making themselves feel guilty, you know, for it, and I just don't see the reason why they should have protested it, because it was one person's reality, you know.
yeah, and like I said, it's a story speaking against racism, so they they should be on the same side with the person who wrote the story.
I remember being bothered by them canceling that several years back. I know it's been like 7 years already, but I remember it happening, and I remember thinking, why the heck would they cave, you know? But on I guess, yeah, maybe they should have let the community know more that it was going to happen, but the community should have already known about uh the what is it, they should have known about the book and the movie having already happened, and known the context of it already. I feel like there were some illiterate people taking offense, that didn't know crap about what they were saying. But in any case, I just wanted to speak out against it, because that was wrong that was wrong of them, cancel, and I think it was wrong of those who were planning a protest to protest. I get it that
Yeah,
that they have a right to protest, but
yeah, like
I don't think they had a need to protest it.
apparently their goal is to eradicate racism, and then they go and cancel a story that speaks against racism. I mean, that's
And that
kind of.
happened here. Shorewood is part of is right near Milwaukee, so I feel like it was partly in relation to where we live. So I feel ashamed of my city, ashamed of those people involved in the protest, and ashamed in the people who couldn't just let the show go on. You know, But
Yeah.
that is neither here nor there. But in any case, hopefully you ladies and gentlemen out there have enjoyed our discussion on this film. Hopefully we have given it a little bit, of a cool discussion. And if you haven't seen the movie, go out and see it. And if you let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion, what you thought of the movie, and we'll see you next week as we continue discussing movies. And I believe it is your turn, Boris. So what do you have in store for us?
Well, I initially had something else on mind, but now when you were listing the movies this composer was working on, you mentioned this movie, The Good Son, which I kind of forgot about. So, and that's a movie I watched a while ago, and I liked that one quite a bit. So maybe we could go with that one. What do you think?
Which movie?
Uh, 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 I'm sorry. I think I'm
Oh,
having
sorry.
some.
Sorry.
I'm having some internet connection issues. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. So you said The Good Son.
Yes.
That's with not Macaulay Culkin, but with Rory Culkin. If I remember correctly.
No, it is with Macaulay Culkin. Is there another movie? Is there another version of that movie?
No, not that I know of. Unless you call Damien. Unless you call the Omen. Unless you call the Omen. A different.
No, The Omen is an entirely different thing to me.
But yeah, The Good Son with Macaulay Culkin and a very young Elijah Wood, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Before he was Frodo.
Yeah, way before.
Before he was Frodo and the Nine Fingers and the Ring of Doom.
Oh,
Anyways,
what song is that?
that's from Return of the King, the animated version of Return of the King.
Oh, hoot.
But in any case, but yeah, so next week we'll be discussing The Good Son, and hopefully you can let us know down in the comments what you thought of our discussion, what you thought of the movie, and yeah, have a great day and evening wherever you are. Everyone say good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Septum Sin versus the world. It's that place for all the boys and girls. You'll feel real safe, you'll feel real warm. It's a cozy place to ride out the storm. Septum Sin. Septum Sin and his best boy Jake see the trends that scare us every day. Physical media is going to the side. Doctor streaming